the Roundtable on Gloom TV. My name is Faith Joseph. As usual, we get to look at different stories that are making the rounds, and there's so much to unpack that happened this week. So let me just start from the top, okay? Democracy Day was celebrated May 29th. That was, of course, on Tuesday by Nigerians. Of course, it is a day that some Nigerians have categorically said it doesn't make any difference anyway. We've not made that much progress, you know, but some still say it is to be celebrated. In 1999 we started another, you know, republic, another dispensation, and so definitely you know, that happened. Okay, pivotal day for Nigerians. But just before that day, the May the 28th, it was declared mourning day, and I will tell you who declared that day as a day of mourning for Nigerians all over. It was actually declared a mourning day by the Civil Society Joint Nigerian Crisis Action Committee, you know, and they said that, you know, it is a day for Nigerians all over the world, you know, to denounce the level of impunity and frequency of violent killings in the country in recent times. So you had several civil society groups all over the place talking about this, and it is very interesting that the day after was actually Democracy Day. We would see if this mourning day is going to be something that, you know, continues after this year. But let's quickly get to our lawmakers. One of our favorite lawmakers, or some people's favorite lawmakers, was in hot water earlier this week, and that is the majority leader of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbaja. Now, he made a faux pas because he was seen in a video presenting to his wife a car. Some people thought, you know, I mean, the price range has been put between 75 million to 100 million naira. And he said it was to celebrate his wife for being with him, sticking with him through thick and thin for almost 30 years. His defense: he has saved years to buy that car for his wife. If he saved for 10 years, would you be able to afford a G-Wagon for your wife in the current economy? If you believe him, well, that is up to you. But going from him, let's get to Senator Dino, okay, who during the week decided that he was uncomfortable sitting with the APC part of the you know, National Assembly, the Senate, and he crashed over to sit with the opposition, saying that he was uncomfortable there. But he has not defected to the new party, okay? And the Senate president granted him his you know, plea to go sit with the opposition, and they were very happy to welcome him into their fold, okay? Also this week, like I said, so much to unpack. The ex-governor of Taraba State was sentenced to 14 years, you know, a conviction that a lot of people applauded. But here's the kicker: it took 11 years to get that. Okay, so as much as we want to celebrate it, the fact also remains that our judiciary system, you know, it's taking so long, our justice system takes so long to actually met out convictions or judgments. But it is still a small victory. Hopefully the other people on trial, we get to know their fate soon as well. So what else are we going to be talking about today? Yes, another thing that of course got a lot of people talking on social media was the book by Okonjo Iweala, former finance minister and coordinator of the economy. She wrote a particular paragraph, you know, in the book that has made the rounds about the National Assembly asking for election expenses, which was negotiated down to 17 billion naira. Of course, the social media was agog with calling it a bribe, and she said it was not a bribe, it was just election expenses, you know, and that's not what it was. But then he makes you ask the question: does National Assembly now conduct elections that they need election expenses? Which of course made the former chairman for INEC come out to say, you guys are always taking bribes. Well, the Senate president, that's of course Representative Jega. Now the Senate president has come out to say that he needs to tell them where exactly, you know, they took bribes, you know, from him or others. And some lawmakers are actually saying, we're going to sue him for that. We'll see how that goes on. But we need to quickly get into the stories for today, and what we're focusing on will basically be the Not Too Young to Run bill that was signed by the president on Thursday. Some excitement, some criticism. We'll get into it. I have a guest here to help do justice to that. I would also talk about the Falz video. This is Nigeria. Stick around. This is the Roundtable on Gloom TV. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back to the show. This is still the Roundtable with Faith on Gloom TV. And like I said earlier, we're going to be talking about a couple of stories. It was Democracy Day on May the 29th. That was on Tuesday. So we're going to be discussing that, as well as a Not Too Young to Run bill that the president assented to, as well as a trending topic on Nigerian Twitter, Falz's cover for Childish Gambino's This is America, that is, This is Nigeria. Joining me to talk about all of these issues is Devo Okorie, a public commentator. Hello, Devo.
Hi, Faith.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Great to have you join me here on the show.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about Democracy Day first. That's the first issue we're looking at. It was May 29th, Democracy Day, and of course Nigeria has been celebrating this since 1999. This time around, of course, the president gave a speech as usual. People have criticized the speech. Some people have applauded the speech. Some people have fact-checked the speech. But let's talk about the importance of Democracy Day. Some people said that this particular administration doesn't have a lot to celebrate. They have flouted court orders. They have, eroded some democratic principles and all that. Is there a lot to celebrate for Democracy Day as Nigerians?
Well, as usual, that question is relative to who's answering. Obviously...
In your opinion?
Yes. Well, I mean, just being objective, because as usual, the party in power would actually speak up for their tenure, whilst those who are experiencing it would either argue for or against. I normally, instead of speaking in general, like to speak in, each and everyone has to answer that question for himself. And first of all, what makes that question important is, what does democracy mean to them? Many Nigerians actually don't understand what democracy means. That's why sometimes we may be a bit played back or a bit subtle about our responsiveness to issues that we have rights to. So when you ask, what is democracy for you? Just for the mere fact that we don't have a military, some would say, oh, it's a beautiful thing, that's enough. But I think democracy is more than that. It actually is a government of the people, by the people. And that interpretation is what enables us to define, is it really by us? Have we gotten to that stage that we can say that my voice counts, my vote counts? If I am not comfortable with governance, I can actually speak up and something will be done. I have representation, my representation either at the National Assembly, State Assembly, or even at the government and part of the mandate actually speaks for me. You know, those are all the guiding principles towards answering that question. And if you want to make it simple, like some would say, has it changed the price of Gary in the market? Yes. But the template for measurement, the first template for measurement is what the party in power gave us when they came in, the mandate, which actually should be our mandate, which we have authorized them, empower them to actually deliver on. 1, security. 2, the economy. 3,
fighting corruption.
Anti-corruption. So we can go at it on those 3 levels and see whether they have actually performed at the end of the day.
But some people argue that they have eroded, democratic principles, they've flouted court orders. So if you go by that, was Democracy Day was celebrating. Not just took it as a regular sit-at-home holiday, it's not a big deal.
I think it's a bit of both sides. This government has struggled with some actions, especially on court judgments in some cases. And in some cases, they've actually stood firm and ensured that democracy has been upheld. So we may not like it, but at the end of the day, that's the whole idea behind democracy.
You think progress is being made?
In some areas. If the majority does not like it, then we move for a change.
So, what about the Mourning Day? Would that be a nice thing for the government to say, you know what, let's make this a national sort of day as well? I mean, it was Joint Civil Society that put it forth, May 28th, Mourning Day.
Why should we call it mourning?
Well, they said it's to bring attention to the number of people that have died across the country.
Yes, sorry. I think they were being metaphorical. And why I say metaphorical was that if at the end of the day democracy is about benefits, more life, better life, then if we go by the count of people that have been murdered, assassinated, slaughtered by the incidences of insecurity in the country, then it's a point of concern. So instead of celebrating, we should be mourning. So we get that message.
And it's interesting that they put it a day before Democracy Day.
Yes, we get that message because at the end of the day, what's the national anthem? The labor of our who?
Heroes past.
Heroes past. So we expect that what Awolowo, what Sardina, Zeke and Co did should have paid off by now. We shouldn't still be sacrificing ourselves just to get what some people had done long ago.
Okay, let's move on from that very quickly and talk about our second issue for today, which is a not too young to run bill.
Right.
Some people will say it's a long time coming. Okay, so finally the president signed it. I mean, the National Assembly passed it. You know, they, of course, passed it to the president, who now signed it into law on Thursday. There were people excited about this, and there were people who felt there's really nothing to be excited about. What's your take? What's your position?
Well, there is a lot to be excited about, and I would even say it was a long time coming. The real action took place in 2016 when the first reading was passed in the National Assembly. And you know, if you understand the process, first and second reading, and then after it's adopted, it has to be adopted by 2/3 of the state's National Assembly. Yeah. That takes time. And what you need to commend is the action of the youth who were behind this, who moved for this motion and ensured that they lobbied to get it passed. And eventually when it was passed, it came back to the presidency and he assented to it. That process is what
should be commended.
Yes, what should be commended.
Not the bill in itself.
Not the bill in itself. That's the first commendation. Why? Because people need to understand this is how a democracy works. That's why I said a lot of people do not understand how a democracy works. That's why in most cases when there are issues, we don't hold the National Assembly, our representatives and our senators to account, because they have enormous powers that are meant to guide and more or less the checks and balances on the executive who are holding our mandates at the end of the day. So first of all, we commend the efforts. Secondly, the bill was passed. We need to give kudos to the presidency. They didn't waste more time than they should have. I'll dare say that even the joke that he passed, or I took it as a joke. Oh
yeah, it was a joke. Yes. He said, you know, don't run now.
Don't run now. I've learned to understand the humor behind our presidency. He can be a very funny man. So
he can, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
you would have to, explain it to me, because sometimes I don't get his humor.
No, I get his humor all the time. Honestly, I get his humor all the time. But the thing is, now that it's been done, every bill is for a purpose. It doesn't have a life of itself. Youths or those who have wanted such a scenario need to now do the needful. So the second half, I believe, from what I've heard from them, is that they're going to start looking for eligible youths who can qualify for electable positions.
The group that is behind, this particular bill, yes. I know that one of the things that they said after it was signed, was that they were also saying that there should be like waivers in different political parties to give like a 50% waiver for youths.
They had more that wasn't assented to.
Yes, so they're saying that is the next step. Do you think youths need that kind of waivers?
It's a request, it's a desire, but I don't think it's tenable in the sense that in as much as we want youths to take up electable positions, the fundamental, because even one of the originators of that bill said he was even with the 25 years that they had gotten, he was with 18 years, the voting age. Once you're voting age, you should qualify. Yeah. Yes, and I agree with that. That's an objective position. You don't need a quota. What you need is, because at that point, if you're asking for a quota, we're now negating the first principle, which is make it available and open to all. What you want is the best candidates to get the position.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to do that, you're going to remove all limitations, you're going to remove all criteria, and allow each candidate on the basis of superior argument and understanding
and
win the votes. Yes.
But I think I understand where they're coming from, and it is looking at our political system, looking at how political parties operate, looking at the funding that is required in Nigeria to actually be able to run for office, to join a political party, the process, that you have to go through, the money that is involved in it. A lot of young people do not have these resources. They don't have the money. And there's something about Nigerian political parties, which is the godfatherism complex that comes in, where you're almost like an apprentice as a young person. when you get into a political party. Getting delegates to believe in you, it takes a lot. A lot of young people don't have that. So in the light of that, wouldn't you say, yeah, maybe a quota is necessary?
Well, the truth is this, right? They did that for women some time ago. That was limited. Secondly, when you're saying that for youth, you're still you're reinforcing what we're trying to get away from.
Get out of.
Now, what do I mean by this? You see, in a democracy, there's also a level of ignorance. Even if you have money, even if you have political minds and power, it doesn't mean that you are insurmountable completely. The people have something, even if they don't have funds, they have collective bargaining power that they haven't used. They haven't looked at the option of, hey, if we have a common cause, we can come together. Take, for example, and these are the lessons that democracy has brought. In the last dispensation, we are aware of how much was spent, whether it was legal or not. We knew that funds, dollars, and naira were being shared handsomely, abundantly. Yet, it did not win them the presidency back. At the end of the day, there was a common understanding, there was a common desire among people. That was the first time I saw Nigerians. Remember, most times people would vote and walk away. They sat down, they stood, they were waiting, were counting 1, 2, 3, 4. People were concerned. They participated passionately. So that is what we're saying. Now, if you have this capacity, maybe at some point the youths might, if they decide to gather themselves as a constituency, that, hey, we're not being given a chance. Since it's a game of numbers, how many of you, despite the amount of money you would take to buy us over, we can still come together and form the numbers that we require to topple this vote? It's been happening in small pockets. It just needs to be aggregated to have a greater impact.
Yeah, despite our president's sense of humor, saying don't run against me in 2019, right. Do you think 2019 will see any rise of youth? We already know people who have thrown the towel. Those people are not exactly the ones this bill was made for, the youth, yes. The show arrays, for show arrays 47. Right. Toye is also in his late 40s, I think. Kingsley Mogalo, same thing. So, I mean, the age is what was never a barrier for them. Right. But people classify them as, young people, a demographic and code. So, this age thing is not a problem for them. But there's some people who also think that because they're outsiders, they're not going to make so much of a splash. So, do you think young people coming for 2019, you think political parties will be ready to adopt young people? Do you think they'll make any sort of splash come 2019 because of this?
I guess it's not the first time young people have been part of our politics. At different times in our own history, young people have been used, or they have been placed, or they have been nominated and backed up. What is important is what you call the systems that are at play, the political structures that are at play. So if it's Dimeji Bankole, there was a system and structure behind him. Even in the time of the early days, elder statesmen, when they came in at a young level,
they were pretty young.
There was a system and structure in place that empowered them. So, what my expectation is for all the new players in this political game plan need to understand that they require structures. They need to build the social capital. They need to build the political capital among the people. Because who says at the end of the day people don't change their minds? Remember, our own politicians are cross-corporatists. So who's saying that they cannot see reason to back any of them for a particular cause? It happens at times that you would least expect it.
Okay, so we would watch this space and see exactly what happens where that is concerned. We need to go for a very quick break. When we return, we'll talk on our final issue for today, a bit light-hearted, but basically we're talking about Falz and his cover of childish gangsters. This is America.
This is Nigeria. Look how I'm living now. Look how I'm living now. Everybody be criminal. This is Nigeria. Look how we living now. Look what we eating now. Everybody be criminal. This is Nigeria. Just because I'm on TV now. Person will not get work is checking to see if my watch is original. This is Nigeria. Whether Madam Philomena. Money vanish for your office, 36 million, you tossing an animal. This is Nigeria. Never any recession. When looters and killers and stealers are still contesting election. Politicians with thieves, some billion, you know they go prison. Police station they close by 6. Security reason. My brothers and sisters, I want you to put your hands up right now. Because cause your miracle is coming this week. If you believe me, let me hear you say amen. This is Nigeria. Praise and worship, we're singing out. Pastor put his hand on the breast of his member, he's pulling the demon out. This is Nigeria. No electricity daily. Young people are still working multiple jobs and they talk say we lazy. This is Nigeria. There's plenty wahala shot. Fulani heads, man, still a slaughter. Got the people they must.
Roundtable on Gloom TV. My name is Faith. So welcome. If in case you're just joining us, of course I have as a guest on the show with me, Okonjo, and we've been talking about a number of issues. Our last issue we're looking at for today is the video by Falz, which is actually a cover of Childish Gambino's "This Is America." Okay, so he did his own video, "This Is Nigeria." Some people have described it as brilliant. I mean, he has gotten, exposure. Yeah, accolades, that's the word. Has gotten exposures from CNN, from the BBC, from Al Jazeera. It's all over the place, and I dare say his father must be pretty proud of him. But, the video has also started a conversation. Okay, first line of the song, "This Is Nigeria, everybody be criminal." So how can he say that? How can he group everybody as criminals in Nigeria? So we're going to be talking about that. Devo, what did you think about the video?
Well, first thing I'll say, thumbs up, kudos. This is not just a brilliant, but it's, for the lack of a better word, it's a Grammy Award-winning piece of artistry.
Grammy Award? I think you're exaggerating. Grammy Awards.
Not. And I will give you reasons quickly.
Yes.
One, I think, as you said, how are people responding to it? First of all, if you check the indicators, it's gotten over 3 million views, I think, in the first week, almost replicating what the original did in America. Yes. Secondly, Falz is he's the scion of one of our reputed lawyers in the land, and he's also a lawyer himself. That means there's education backing it. So what you're getting is intelligence and creativity combined in one. Thirdly, and for a long time, remember we've been talking about the quality of content in Nigeria.
Now I know we had a conversation about that.
Now you have a piece that's brilliant, that speaks to us, that we can relate to. Secondly, it's even a Bible, a compendium for us to work with and address issues. For a long time, we've been waiting not just for conscious music, but for our artists to be able to use their music to be a positive impact on the people. Here you have it. Now, obviously, criticisms are allowed. They will come from left, right, and center. Yeah,
there are people who think, why is he getting so much accolades? It's just a cover.
That's the idea.
He copied Gambino anyway.
That's the idea behind art. That's the idea behind art. But the real message is, how are we taking it? How are we responding to it? And that's where I have my issue. In Nigeria, most times, the question is, are we reactive or are we proactive to what we see and hear? Are we more sentimental than objective? Are we ready to face the ugly truth, or are we just simply going to dismiss it off on, no, it's just a exuberant youth who once again has done it once more, So, and I think we have that problem in facing the issues in this country. Falz has done that brilliantly in this, and if you look at it, I was even examining it myself. There were over 15 topical issues relevant to our times and seasons that were highlighted, and brilliant job. We need more of that.
Some people have gone to the extent of comparing that with Childish Gambino. Some people even saying that it was better. But here's my thoughts on that. I mean, as a Nigerian, you can actually say it's better because it's talking about issues that you can relate with.
Of course.
It's relatable, right? For the American, This Is America is more relatable because it is also talking about issues that they can relate with.
Right.
So it is about the environment, basically. Should that be any sort of comparison, or just take the message and walk away with it?
Well, it's a free, open square for anybody to say and to hear their views. So we can throw the bat at each other back and forth. He made something that was related to us. We need to, I believe we should appreciate that. It's not just, it's beyond the music now. It's now about a message, a strong message, especially at a time like this when the electorate, the polity, the people of this country are highly dissatisfied with what is going on. So he's given us a lead, and in most, like I said, in most cases, musicians shy away from political narratives.
Yeah.
But he's gone front and center, and I think for anyone who's able to stand up for what he believes, he should be commended.
Yes. Some articles, I think it was a CNN article, I'm trying to remember if that is it or another article that I saw, actually went on to compare him with Fela.
Well,
do you think that is a stretch, or you think
I don't think it's a stretch. What they did compare, they didn't say he is Fela. They didn't say he's replacing Fela. They just compared. If you remember, Fela was known for his strong views against the government of the day. Now, what that meant was he uses music to address the issues within the community.
Without fear.
Without fear or favor. Now, whether he suffered for that or not is another story. But in this case here, Falz is raising issues, topical issues that affect you and me. So it's not as if he lied. It's not as if he exaggerated issues. He only brought them to the fore. And when people do this in a society, you need to commend them for that. Because sometimes we blame our government for shying away from addressing issues. Here we have a citizen. At the end of the day, he's a citizen like you and me. He used his capacity in music to be able to bring national issues once again in front of us for us to address. Did we get the message? Sometimes what we see happening in Nigeria is that we beat the messenger and forget the message. We do that all the time.
That is our story.
We beat around the messenger and we forget the message. And we should concentrate more on the message. Is it talking about the inequality? Is it talking about the corruption? Is it talking about the way we have bad system, dilapidated system? About the lyric that goes, everybody be criminal? I think that's just an expression, an artistic expression. We know ourselves what we refer to as the Nigerian factor, our capacity in some interpretations to deny the real truth and to look the other
corners.
Yes, to compromise. Now, at some point, if we're going to build that nation that we're proud of, that standards are hailed, merit is brought to the fore rather than compromise, then we have to start facing the truth about how we live.
Okay, a couple of things as we wrap up. There were girls who were dancing in that video that wore hijab, and there were people who felt that that was an affront on the Muslim religion. I mean, it's interesting though, because he also touched on the Christian religion, saying that the pastor was touching a woman's breast and trying to pull out the demon. So you have all of these religious factors, and you had people upset. You know, at that. Why use girls in hijab to dance while talk about pastors like that?
From the beginning, this is a piece of work. It's an artwork. People are entitled to their views. I will not begrudge anyone. While some will see it from religious view, some will see it from a point of entertainment. While the others will say, oh, that your piece educated me. Another set will say, I'm very upset. Why are you talking about the country? Don't insult my country. Do you understand? So we should also remember, that's democracy. We are all entitled to our views.
Are you expecting anybody from government to notice it? Because nobody said anything.
Well, the government in some of the agencies, that's I think the National Film Board, as well as the I'm not sure whether NBC, the people that license, they did mention that the video was not licensed for airing. And I think that's another challenge with artist content releases via, digital infrastructure. In these days, with the digital airwaves,
licensing is not really that important. You can just put it on the internet.
So, well, like I said, it's a democracy. They've made their own views known. Well,
we the people from downloading and watching on YouTube.
Yes, we have heard the message, and that's also part of digital democracy. People are able to throw their content out there. Whether it's placed for our good or not is another discussion. But we are very proud that Nigeria is opportuned to experience news, to experience content freely. Those are items of democracy that we haven't celebrated.
A lot of people will say, thank God that the NBC can't regulate YouTube.
Aha.
Okay.
Good one.
And this is how we come to the end of the show for today. If you have loved this, hey, don't forget to subscribe, of course, at Gloom TV on YouTube. And you can follow also on all the social media handles on Twitter and on Instagram. You can follow me as well at Fabric Hair. Okay. And we are going to be discussing some other issues next time, of course, on the round table on Gloom TV with Faith. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Dino, for coming.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
And do enjoy the rest of your day.
Not good.